There are some people who created History Channel. There are some who wrote history book because in their time, what was in vogue was writing a book. If not for the way we have tackled Gowon, people would have bought the lies he published a few days ago and say it is true. They would have given him enough heat. And thankfully, our father did not write a book, Odumegwu Ojukwu. He was doing videos. I don't know what else somebody can do. People are blaming Ojukwu that he did not write a book. He should have written a book. What kind of book can be better than a man facing camera and telling you with his mouth that this is what happened? In my view.
But at the end of it, I don't want to go because these things are all, the tapes are available. The records are there. In fact, only about 2 weeks ago, I saw a set of the records again. The transcripts are available. But we talked about the Nigerian situation. And certainly, at the end, everybody says, oh, you told them this, you did that. The fact was that our case was so clear that I actually believe at the end of Aburi that the problem was not Gowon, but probably some ambassadors in Lagos who were pressing for something else. Because we understood each other. We agreed on every single point. The drafting was, in fact, my chief secretary with 2 other chief secretaries from the other side. They said, no. And drafted and agreed. We looked at it, we agreed. General Ankara read over the whole report again to us at the end. Asked us if we wanted to amend anything, no. At the end of all that, the position was so good that actually Ankara drove Jack, Gowon, and myself to the airport. Jack was sitting on his left, I was sitting on his right. He was in the middle. And in the course of that journey, at a point, General Ankara shook his head and said, oh, thank you. Thank you. If only we can go on like this, everything would be all right. I believe I was the one, as I do now from time to time, I go for the dramatic. Suddenly I picked up Gowon's hand, put it on Ankara's lap, brought my other hand, placed it on it, and I said, General, sir, hold us together, I want to say something. So General Ankara put his hand on top of the 2 hands, and I said, General, I want to assure you that I am totally satisfied with everything we said. I will even go further and say to you something I did not say at the conference, and that is that once we have implemented everything we have said, I would ask you for one favor and one favor only. And that would be to be the one to propose Jack Gowon as a head of state of Nigeria.
How do you renege on an agreement that you and I went to another country to make? When Joseph Ankara drove Ojukwu and Gowon to the airport, Ojukwu made a video and told us this is what happened when Joseph Ankara drove himself and Gowon to the airport. They were already in accord. They were drinking tea together, almost from the same cup. Only for you to get to Nigeria and you developed fever. Now you have developed fever, no problem. Ojukwu decided to announce what you people agreed, and you found an error, you found a fault in him making the announcement. There was no fault in him making the announcement. The only fault is that Philip Asiodo and the other guy, the Oba of Benin, have convinced you to disagree with what you agreed with, and you went on with it. So the blood of over 3 million people who died, not Igbo people alone, people died who were not Igbo. Listen to Philip Effiong. Listing the people that died who are not Igbo. How much more the ones that are Igbo? Today you see people from Port Harcourt, you say, I'm not Igbo, I'm Ikwere. You see somebody from Delta, you say, I'm Ika, I'm not Igbo. Who asks you? Who will ask you if you are from Urobo? Who will even ask you if you are a Bibio? Who will ask you if you are ethnic? Who will ask you all these questions? What they know is that you are Igbo. So people were being taken out on the account that they were presumed Igbo. Somebody went from television station to another, maybe live video, taking interviews to explain what happened. And Ojukwu should have written a book. Akuko talking about what? Something he has already talked about every blessed day. So when Gowon put out his lies, it was easy for us to go and pick up the truth that Ojukwu has been saying over the years and reply him with it. All what Gowon and his team did in Igbo land is now happening in his homeland too. Omari Kosi Afo. When our people were dying in millions, Gowon and Asika Babi were all what Gowon and his team did in Igbo land is now happening in his homeland too. Omari Kosi Afo. When our people were dying in millions, Gowon and Asika Babi were going from one television station to another to tell the world that the concept of genocide was a propaganda and that there was no genocide. Today, that genocide is visiting his middle belt and particularly Plateau State every day. And you expect us to go and sympathize with him, right? I don't have any such sympathy. I don't have it. What will foster national cohesion for Nigeria is to go back to the 3 R's that Gowon deceived himself with. He talked about reconstruction of Igbo land that was brought down to the ground. Some buildings still have bullet wounds in Igbo land. Just like he acknowledged that palm trees have bullet wounds. Imagine palm trees having bullet wounds. Do you know what palm trees mean in Igbo land? Do you know how important a palm tree is to Igbo? You kill the human beings and face the palm trees as well. And then came back to tell us that it was only palm trees that were shot, that people were not shot. So, Igbo, we know what happened to us. And thankfully, the person who led the war, Ojukwu, made enough videos for us to use as response when it is time. And this is that time. And we are using those videos. We are not buying the lies. You went to Aburi, signed an agreement. That is why it is called an accord. An accord because I agreed, you agreed. Only for you to go back home and you said you had a fever. And because of that fever, you were not able to announce to Nigerians that you have reached a peace agreement with Ojukwu. What even led to the visit to Aburi in the first place? Do you remember what led to the visit to Aburi? Because Igbo were being massacred in their thousands and nobody said a word about it. Before 1960 that Nigeria gained independence, 2 different pogroms have happened in the north against Igbo, and the British-led government said nothing. Then we gained independence and they became emboldened. If you hear them talk about the 1967 war, they will relate it back to the January boys, as if it started in January. It did not start in January, not at all. you were already killing our people before January. Before the January boys that were not all Igbo struck, and you labeled it an Igbo coup as an excuse to massacre our people. Before that January, you were already massacring in the Igbo. In their thousands, we were dying. Nobody said a word. So Gowon triumphantly launched a book, and Theophilus Danjuma gave him 3 billion naira. Aliko Dangote 500 million. Where do you think they got the monies from? These are the beneficiaries of one Nigeria. Gowon made it very clear here in this video that he believes that after oil was discovered in Igbo land, Ojukwu will become very rich, that he will begin to rule the whole of Nigeria. So when he returned from the accord he signed in Aburi, he sat down with the people he called Super Palm Sex. He sat down with Philip Asiodo, who is from Asaba here. He sat down with the Dan Oba of Benin, Oba Erediwa II, who was then the head of the civil service too. And they both told him that he has given up too much to Ojukwu.
The North feared the domination of the South, educationally, commercially, etc. And I think it is the fear of the major fear of political domination was really what brought about the coup of 1966, which seemed to be one-sided. And it's mainly the northern leadership, both in the political as well as military, that were eliminated, and that engendered the crisis. Now, it was because Ojukwu or the East felt that after what happened in January and July, and a lot of the killings in September, in August, September, October, and subsequently, that the Igbos had to run to their own particular area. And I know that I had to even make sure that the soldiers separated, for a while. Otherwise, you never know what will happen. The animosity if they are within the same barracks. So I had to allow them to go back to their domain. Now it was, when Ojukwu, the East, felt that they have no, because of what has happened, they have no further stake in the country. They decided they wanted to break away from the country. Now, that was really what brought about the Civil War. And of course, I said, as a soldier, I'm supposed to defend my nation. And now, as a head of state, I cannot allow the nation to break up. Like Winston Churchill said that he was not made prime minister to preside over the dissolution of the empire when India was wanted to become independent. So that was the point, and I decided that we should not, I should not allow Nigeria to break away. We will not allow any part to secede. Now, of course, Ojukwu wanted, if he succeeded, yes, with the oil, the major oil is in his own part of the country, at that time, is in the eastern part of the country. Yes, in fact, he would be independent, he would be financially robust, and then who knows, he might probably go even beyond that to start reconquering the rest of the country so that he can be the president of the country.
Victimized on all sides. When I watched this video of Anthony Ukpa saying that the concept of genocide is a war propaganda and that there is nothing of such, and that he is saying so not just as a political scientist who is a humanist, not just as an academic, but as an Igbo person who is overseeing Igbo land for the past 9 months. I shuddered. An Igbo son, even the people he was talking to were surprised. The people he was talking to, addressing in that press conference, were surprised.
These moral issues are probably summarized by the concept of genocide. I think I'm in a position to say, not only as one who's been living in Nigeria continuously now, through the many months of this tragedy, not only as a social scientist concerned much more than other people with following these events and developments, but also as one who in the past 9 months has had some public responsibility for overseeing the welfare of Igbos. That there is no genocide afoot, there hasn't been any genocide afoot. The claims that have been made by my friends, and they are my friends on the other side, about the intentions and the actions of the federal government have, I think, been clearly demonstrated to be propaganda. I would, for example, indicate that as early ago as February, in the area of Nsukka, through the effort of myself and some of my staff, we had succeeded in building up a fairly stable population of 80,000 Igbos who had returned. Unhappily for us, this fact was given some publicity by the International Red Cross, among others. And a week later, my friends on the other side sent in a weak platoon, a weak battalion, not enough to do any military harm, but enough to scare the people back into the forests. It is this type of irresponsibility which we cannot guarantee in the event of an unconditional ceasefire that we are anxious to preclude. I think I can appeal to you, and especially those who view themselves as friends of Igbos, that in the interest of Igbos and in the interest of humanity in Nigeria, that pressure should be brought to bear on these people, external constraint to compel them to want to negotiate. It's only then that some meaningful dialogue can emerge.
Biko na ụmụ Igbo, ihe m na-ayọ, support the Igbo cause in any way you can. Any channel you see promoting Igbo culture, support it. This is not my mainstay. I have a source of livelihood and source of income. Assuming this is what I decided to do for myself, it is a noble cause. So I'm urging you to also support it in any way you can. Please, let us continue to grow as a people. There are so many other channels, small ones, that you see promoting Igbo culture. Support them. There are many ways to support people. I have a friend who is from Enugu State, another one from Anambra State. Once in a while, they will call. I have a friend as well who is the owner of Omenka app. And he may be seeing this video or he will watch it later. He's in the United States of America. All what he thinks about is promoting Igbo culture. In fact, he's a lecturer in the university there teaching Igbo. Bikono, Umu Igbo. Anything you can do to support the progress of Igbo culture, the sustenance of our cultural heritage, do so. If not for people like us and those who are like us, who are promoting Igbo culture, there are some things you will never believe came from Igbo land. There are still buildings in Onitsha that are bearing bullet marks. And I'm not kidding you. There are buildings in Onitsha that bore bullet marks. That was not a military building. That was a residential home. And somebody picks up microphone to say the concept of genocide in eastern Nigeria is just a war propaganda. It is not true. And that you're saying as an Igbo man. And then you think generations after us will forgive you? Even if we forgive you, we will never forget such. So I was saying we have to go back to the 3 R's. You promised to reconstruct Igbo land. You promised to rehabilitate Igbo people. If we had a place of equal opportunities, which Igbo man has been president of Nigeria since that war happened? Which Igbo man? Only 2 people have managed to come close to power. Only 2 people. Alex Ekweme and our brother from Abia State, whose name I cannot immediately recall, I think Gebitu, who was a chief of staff to Yakubu, Badamusi Babangida in 1985. He was just 1 year too. They threw him away. Which Igbo man has come close to the presidency since that war happened? We are talking about national unity and reintegration. If we truly want national unity, if for Yoruba man finishes, he will give to Hausa, Fulani. If Fulani finish, he will give to Yoruba. Yoruba finish, he give to Fulani. And you tell us of national unity. And people like David Umahi has the guts to tell us that this is the Biafra we prayed for infrastructural projects. Which infrastructural projects have come to an Igbo? Bikonu umu Igbo. Bikonu umu Igbo. Support anyone you see name ihe ọbụla dị mma gbasara anyị Igbo. Anybody promoting Igbo culture, Igbo tradition, Igbo history, as long as ihe ọbụla gbasara anyị Igbo maka ọdịmma ndị Igbo, support that person. First of all, algorithm is against that person. If you don't know it now. There are videos that I will take time to edit. After editing, once you post it, they block it. Why? All the videos that were taken during the 1967 to 1970 genocidal war against Ndi Igbo were not shot by Ndi Igbo. They were shot by the British Nigerian government. The same people that sponsored the war against Ani Igbo. So if you put that video, they will bring it down immediately. Nobody will discuss anything with you. Once you put it, they will bring it down and tell you it's copyright or it's against their policy. Imagine a video so gory that YouTube doesn't want other people to see it. That is the kind of videos that emerged from Ani Igbo. So whatever horror you are hearing that is happening in the Middle Belt and Jos is child's play compared to what happened for 3 years in Igbo land. So if you make a video to create awareness and let the world know what we pass through without rehabilitation. Is it not Boko Haram people that they are spending billions to rehabilitate? Who rehabilitated the Igbo soldiers who died during the Biafra war? Those who are still carrying bullet wounds all about. Who has rehabilitated them? Till today. After close to 60 years. Because by next year, it will get to 60 years since the war started. Who has rehabilitated one person? Who? Support and promote that person's channel. I don't have too much more to say.
Nowhere was the war's punishment more devastating than in the commercial city of Onitsha. In this comfortable and sophisticated town perched on the east bank of the Niger River, thousands of Igbo merchants built their fortunes by hard work. The Igbo is a commercial man, and this market at Onitsha, the biggest market in all West Africa, was a monument to his enterprise. When the British author Elspeth Huxley came here, she wrote, "Anything can be bought in this market, from an elephant to an admiral's uniform. There is no difficulty about nylons or about raw meat, whiskey, gold earrings, avocado pears, Irish turkeys, penicillin, or anything else." When the Biafrans left here, they burned the market. What the Igbos failed to burn, the federal Nigerians took care of. Not a building in Onitsha is unscarred. The federal troops in